Can I teach you 15 mind-blowing geography facts about countries that are totally hiding them from us? Did you know there's a European country that was physically picked up and moved hundreds of miles to the west after World War II, cities, borders, and all, that Spain has been living on the wrong time zone for over 80 years because of a deal made with Adolf Hitler and never fixed it? Or that there's a country in Europe smaller than New York's Central Park, and it's one of the wealthiest places on Earth? These aren't rare edge cases. These are real geography facts happening right now, hidden in plain sight, and most people have absolutely no idea. By the time we hit fact number 1, you'll never look at a world map the same way again. Fact 15. After World War II, Poland was literally picked up and moved hundreds of miles to the west. When World War II ended, the Allied powers did something that had almost never been done in modern history. They moved an entire country. Poland lost its eastern territories to the Soviet Union, land that is now Ukraine and Belarus, and in exchange received a massive chunk of eastern Germany to the west. Cities that had been German for centuries became Polish overnight. Breslau became Wrocław. Stettin became Szczecin. Between 12 and 14 million Germans were expelled from these territories in one of the largest forced migrations in human history. Millions of Poles were simultaneously pushed out of their eastern cities into the newly acquired western lands. The country didn't just change shape, it changed location. Poland today sits roughly 150 miles west of where it stood before the war, and almost nobody who looks at a map has any idea that happened. Fact 14. Spain has been in the wrong time zone for 80 years because of Hitler. Spain sits at the exact same longitude as the United Kingdom and Portugal. By every rule of geography, Spain should be running on Greenwich Mean Time, the same clock as London. But in 1940, Francisco Franco made a political decision to align Spain with Nazi Germany's time zone, Central European Time, as a gesture of solidarity with Hitler. Franco died in 1975. The Third Reich collapsed in 1945. Spain never changed its clocks back. The result is a country permanently running 1 hour ahead of where it geographically belongs. In western Spain, during winter, the sun rises as late as 10 a.m. In summer, it doesn't set until nearly 11 p.m. Spanish people eat lunch at 2 or 3 in the afternoon and dinner at 9 or 10 at night, not purely by cultural choice, but because the entire country is living on a clock that has been geographically wrong since 1940. Fact 13. Monaco is smaller than Central Park and has more billionaires per square mile than anywhere on Earth. If you've walked through Central Park in New York City, you've covered more ground than the entire country of Monaco. Central Park is 1.3 square miles. Monaco is 0.78 square miles. Yet it's home to 39,000 people, making it the most densely populated country on Earth. It has the highest concentration of millionaires and billionaires per capita anywhere in the world. Despite sitting entirely inside France, Monaco has been an independent principality since the 13th century. It's a country the size of a neighborhood running on the economy of a small empire, and it has been doing it for 700 years. Fact 12. Iceland sits on 2 continents at once, and you can literally touch both. Iceland straddles the mid-Atlantic ridge, the boundary between the North American tectonic plate and the Eurasian tectonic plate. The 2 plates are pulling apart at roughly an inch per year, meaning Iceland is literally being split in 2 in geological slow motion. In the Silfra Fissure at Thingvellir National Park, you can scuba dive or snorkel in the crystal clear glacial water that fills the gap between the 2 plates. You can stretch out both arms and touch North America with one hand and Europe with the other. There is no other place on Earth where you can do that. Iceland isn't just sitting on geology, it is the geology. Fact 11. Portugal has had the same borders. Since 1139 AD, 637 years before America existed, the United States declared independence in 1776. Portugal had already locked in its national borders 637 years before that. Portugal is the oldest nation-state in Europe, with borders that have remained essentially unchanged since 1139 AD, when King Afonso I established the kingdom. Its border with Spain, formalized in the 1297 Treaty of Alcañices, is the oldest treaty-defined border still actively in use anywhere in the world. While the rest of Europe was constantly being redrawn through wars, empires, and revolutions, Portugal's shape barely moved. Nearly 9 centuries. Same lines. In a continent that rewrote itself dozens of times over, that is almost impossible to explain. If you're learning something new here, hit subscribe. We do these geography deep dives every week, and you do not want to miss what's coming in the top 10. Fact 10. Andorra is ruled by 2 heads of state, neither of whom live there. Andorra is a tiny country tucked into the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain. It also has one of the strangest governments on earth. It's a co-principality, meaning it has 2 heads of state at the same time. One is the president of France, the other is a Spanish bishop, the Bishop of Urgell. Neither of them lives in Andorra. Neither was elected by Andorrans. This arrangement has been in place since 1278, over 700 years, and it still holds today. Every time France elects a new president, Andorra automatically gets a new co-ruler. Emmanuel Macron technically governs a medieval mountain kingdom, and almost nobody talks about it. Fact 9. Norway's coastline is longer than the distance around the Earth, twice. Earth's circumference at the equator is about 24,900 miles. Norway's coastline, including all its fjords, islands, and inlets, is estimated at over 62,000 miles. That is more than twice around the entire planet. The reason is the fjords. Deep, narrow channels carved by ancient glaciers that add thousands of miles of additional coastline to a country roughly the size of New Mexico. If you traced every inch of Norway's coast, you would travel farther than the distance from the Earth to the Moon. Most people picture Norway as a small, quiet Scandinavian country. Its coastline is one of the longest on Earth. The map doesn't come close to showing the truth. Fact 8. The Netherlands built its own country out of the sea and still fights every day to keep it. About 26% of the Netherlands sits below sea level. Without its network of dikes, pumps, and storm surge barriers, the most sophisticated water management system on the planet, roughly 60% of the country would be regularly underwater. The Dutch didn't just settle near the sea, they pushed it back, drained it, and built entire provinces on land that used to be ocean floor. Amsterdam sits 6 feet below sea level. Rotterdam sits nearly 20 feet below. Every single day, the Netherlands pumps water out of its own land just to stay above water. It's not a country shaped by geography. It's a country that looked at geography and refused to accept it. Fact 7. Nobody actually knows how many islands Greece has. Ask Greece how many islands it has, and you will not get a straight answer. Estimates range from 1,200 to 6,000, depending on what you define as an island. The Greek government has officially claimed 6,000. Others argue it's closer to 1,200 if you only count land masses large enough to sustain human life. 200 to 27 are permanently inhabited. Some are barely bigger than a tennis court. Others have entire ancient civilizations buried under their soil. The Aegean Sea alone contains more islands than most countries have cities. Greece doesn't just sit on the Mediterranean. It is scattered across it in thousands of fragments that no one has ever fully mapped. Fact 6. The Danube passes through 10 countries, more than any other river on Earth. The Amazon is longer. The Nile is more famous. But no river on Earth passes through more nations than the Danube. It flows through or borders Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Moldova, and Ukraine. 10 countries across 1,770 miles, from its source in Germany's Black Forest to the Black Sea. For centuries, it was the eastern frontier of the Roman Empire. It has been a trade route, a war zone, a natural border, and a lifeline for civilizations across thousands of years of history. 10 countries. 1 river. A story that runs through more of Europe than almost anything else on the map. We are in the top 5 now. These are the facts that are genuinely hard to believe. Make sure you're subscribed. so you catch everything we drop next. Fact 5, Svalbard, the one place on Earth where any person from any country can live, no visa needed. Svalbard is a Norwegian archipelago sitting halfway between mainland Norway and the North Pole deep in the Arctic, and it runs under one of the strangest legal arrangements on the planet. The 1920 Svalbard Treaty, signed by 46 nations including the US, Russia, and China, gives every signatory nation's citizens the right to live and work there with no visa, no work permit, and no immigration process at all. Russian citizens, American citizens, Chinese citizens, anyone from a treaty country can simply move there. About 2,500 people currently call it home. Polar bears outnumber people and roam the streets. It's dark for 4 straight months in winter. But legally, it is the single most open territory on Earth. Fact 4, Gibraltar, a tiny British rock sitting inside Spain that Spain has been trying to get back for 300 years. Gibraltar is a British overseas territory physically attached to the southern tip of Spain. It is 2.6 square miles, smaller than most American suburbs. But it sits at the entrance to the Mediterranean Sea, where the Atlantic and the Med meet in a channel barely 8 miles wide. Britain has held it since 1713 under the Treaty of Utrecht. Spain has never stopped wanting it back. In the 2016 Brexit vote, 96% of Gibraltar residents voted to remain in the European Union, because leaving meant hard borders with Spain, which would economically strangle the rock overnight. The geography of one tiny piece of land has driven European political conflict for 3 uninterrupted centuries. Fact 3, San Marino, a country completely surrounded by Italy that has been independent. Since 301 AD, San Marino is a 24 square mile country entirely enclosed within Italian territory. You can drive across it in under 20 minutes. But San Marino claims to be the world's oldest surviving republic, founded on September 3rd, 301 AD, nearly 1,700 years ago. That predates the fall of the Roman Empire. It survived the Roman collapse, the Middle Ages, Napoleon, 2 world wars, and the full unification of Italy, all while sitting completely inside Italian land. It has its own parliament, its own currency, its own postage stamps, and its own national soccer team that plays World Cup qualifying matches against teams 100 times its size. It is a country that by every logic of history should have been absorbed centuries ago, and somehow it never was. Fact 2. Liechtenstein is surrounded by landlocked countries and once accidentally invaded its neighbor. Liechtenstein is one of only 2 countries in the entire world that is double landlocked, meaning it is surrounded entirely by other landlocked countries. Its only neighbors are Switzerland and Austria, both of which are themselves landlocked. The only other double landlocked country on Earth is Uzbekistan, thousands of miles away in Central Asia. To reach any ocean from Liechtenstein, you must cross at least 2 international borders. And in 2007, 170 Swiss soldiers accidentally crossed into Liechtenstein during a nighttime training exercise, marching about a mile inside the border before realizing their mistake and turning back. Liechtenstein's official response was, "We didn't even notice. Don't worry about it." That is the most Liechtenstein thing that has ever happened. Fact 1, Spain has cities in Africa, and they are fully part of the European Union. Here it is, the fact that should be on every map in every classroom, but almost never gets mentioned. Spain has 2 cities on the African continent, Ceuta and Melilla. They are not colonies. They are not overseas territories. They are fully recognized Spanish cities, part of Spain proper, part of the European Union, physically located on the African coast, sharing a land border with Morocco. They are the only land borders that exist between the European Union and the African continent. And those borders are fortified with multi-layer razor wire fences, surveillance towers, and motion sensors, because they are the most intense immigration pressure points in the Western world. People attempting to reach EU soil from across sub-Saharan Africa target those fences every single year. The European Union doesn't just border Africa. Thanks to Spanish geography, the EU is geographically in Africa. That is not a metaphor. That is just the map. From a restaurant table that legally sits in 2 countries at once to European Union cities sitting on the African continent, Europe's geography is hiding more surprises than most people ever learn. The borders on your map aren't just lines. They are centuries of war, politics, treaties, and geological reality packed into shapes that most of us accept without ever asking why. Which one of these facts hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments below, and if you know a geography fact we haven't covered yet, put it down there too. There's another video on screen right now. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.